Hey Stampin' Friends, it's Tanya with Tinkerin' and Ink with Tanya. I am going to show you a card that I created in a collaboration with Jenny Hall, who's one of my good friends. And she sent me this panel that she had ink blended and watercolored with some Hero Hues Reactive Inks. I'm grabbing mine. I believe she used Splash and Lemon Drop. She didn't tell me which one she used, but I'm pretty sure that's what she used. These are amazingly reactive inks and they have that hybrid quality. See how they blend together and make that kind of aqua teal color in the middle? I just love that. I don't know if I would have picked that color combo, so it's nice to have someone challenge you now and again. So I sat down in front of my baskets of stamps to try and figure out what I wanted to create. Sometimes a beautiful panel will stump me. I won't know what I want to do with it. Now this made me think nautical or sunrise over ocean. So I pulled out a few things. It was probably pretty amusing to watch me sitting on the floor pulling stuff out. Now these are from Ink Road, and I thought, oh, mermaid heart. That looks pretty awesome. Yeah, mermaid. Oh wait, I've got these other mermaid sets. All these cute mermaids. Be cool to color those and cut them all out and center them around a sentiment. And we've got shell, yeah, there you. And I make mermaid moves. And there's even resting beach face. Those would all be pretty cool too. But as I was digging through all of those, I stumbled on some of my Hero Art stuff. I had this envelope full of leftovers from a previous crafting session, probably over a year ago. And there's all these already die cut stamped watercolor images with mermaids from another Hero Arts My Monthly Hero Kit. I think it was from like June of 2017, maybe. Anyway, I had colored those and thought, oh, those just don't quite do it. However, this Beach Messages stamp set, yeah, I think this is it. This is what we're going to use, but we are going to use that lovely Reef die there too. So there's so many options. So many things would look awesome in here, but I'm going to settle on Happiness Comes in Waves. And this is the die I'm going to use. I'll have to, I can't remember if it's Coral Reef or Reef Detail die. I'll link in the description box for the actual name and how to get this die. It is still available. So to create that oval, because you can cut this out just with the whole panel without the oval part. So if you want the oval frame, you have to use that die too. They both come in the same, they come together. So I took and cut those out with some 110 Nina Solar White cardstock. And now I'm going to glue them together just using some liquid adhesive. This happens to be the Ultra Bond from iCraft. I got this a couple of months ago. I think I got it in April, and I've used half the bottle already. However, I have awful allergies to latex and formalin, and I think that's in this glue. At least maybe, because sometimes it sets off my asthma and sometimes it doesn't. It works so wonderful though. Anyway, just going through and dabbing the glue all over the back of this die cut. I put a piece of Post-it on my work surface so I didn't get the glue everywhere, because trust me, it happens. And yes, you can tell that I used to work in a clinic many years ago, because that is definitely a drug rep Post-it pad. At one point, my husband and I both worked at clinics. we live in a sort of small town. It's about 10, at the time we were working in the clinics, it was about 10,000 people. And there were 2 clinics in town, and that was it. He worked at one, and I worked at the other. And between the 2 of us, we had gobs of drug rep stuff. So here I am just kind of gently nudging those pieces all together, and I have a little fleck of something. So I'm going to get that out, hopefully with my tweezers. Sometimes I have to pull out a pin or a pokey tool of some kind, but the tweezer worked. Now we're going to adhere that to the, well, now we're going to check things out. We're going to kind of see how this works. And that oval is pretty big. That's a 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch panel, which I'm going to show you right here. 4 1/4, 5 1/2. That will cover an entire card front. And that oval is so large, it pretty much covers the whole thing. So you kind of need the whole panel. Normally, I like to trim things down a bit. I also like to stitch on everything. So I pulled out the scored and pierced rectangles from Spellbinders. And since this is on a watercolor panel, it'll handle quite a lot of texture. So I went and grabbed my Spellbinders platform. And this is the sandwich recipe for doing embossing with dies. So I taped the die to the panel, put the embossing mat and the embossing plate over the top and ran it through my platinum. And I don't have the platinum 6, I have the full size because I do bigger dies. And after I had just about destroyed a die for I think it was my Curvy Keepsakes die. It still works, but boy, howdy is that sucker bent up. And there you can, after I did that, I decided I had to get a bigger machine, and it took me a while to decide on which one. I'm glad I got the platinum. And you can see how well that embossed right into the panel creates that detail that I always seem to need in order for my projects to feel finished. So now it's time to take the sentiment stamp, and we're going to emboss that on this panel before we adhere everything. Oh, now upside down. I'm going to have to flip that in a second. There we go. And just going to get that centered. I think I lay the die cut frame on top before making sure to use my anti-static powder bag there. We'll get that centered in there. There's a lot of smoke in the air today. It's the day after the 4th of July when I'm recording this, and there's a lot of wildfires or forest fires in Canada, and we're getting a lot of the smoke today. I'm only about 90 miles from the Canadian border. So my asthma's super unhappy today. All right, so VersaMark. I'm going to stamp it twice. I did just re-ink my VersaMark pad. I didn't realize how dry it was. Until I had re-inked it. I keep having to interrupt my voiceover for coughing fits. I'm sorry if it sounds kind of choppy. Believe me, you don't want to hear all the coughing. All right, so now I'm going to try. Later I'm going to change this because it didn't stand out enough. This is Alabaster White Brutus Monroe. And I thought I had done a good job with the powder tool. However, part of the panel had a little bit of sticky residue from the washi tape that I'd used to put the Spellbinders die, the frame that we embossed on it. So I just used a dry brush to get that off. And I'm gonna heat. Oh, at that moment when I was reaching over to put away the embossing folder, or excuse me, powder, I noticed the shell in this stamp set, and I thought, oh, that would be super cute, above or below the sentiment. So I decided to pull that out, and we're gonna do another color of embossing powder with that. Oh, look at that. So there's tape on the back of my hand from when I took it off, took the frame off, the frame die off. I can't tell you how often I have tape on the back of my hand. It's it's a convenient place to put it when I don't have a better place for it. So we're going to try the Sparkling Sea embossing powder, which is from Hero Arts and came from one of their earlier kits. I think it was the March one. It was the one with that everyone went nuts for, with all of the all of the fish stuff, all of the ocean stuff. It's a good theme, ocean. And now, just going to heat set that quick. I had paused the video for a minute while I preheated the embossing tool or heat tool. And as you can see, the embossing kind of fades away, and the shell is okay, but so now I'm going to use a heavy block to try and straighten that out a little bit. And I'm just trying to decide how I'm going to make that shell stand out a little more. So this is a 8.5 by 5.5 inch piece of cardstock that I scored in the middle to make a card base. And there's always one edge that's a little longer than the other. And I make sure that that's the front one. Now is when I'm deciding that I need to trim just a tiny little hair off all the way around, since it's just to make it fit better. I just don't like to just glue a panel over the top so that you don't see the white card base behind it at all. And now we're going to use my other favorite trick. I'm using coasters as my dimensionals. These work wonderfully, and they're recyclable. So I just glue that to the back. These are 4-inch square coasters, and I'll have a link. It'll be listed like an affiliate link, but I don't get any reimbursement from the coaster company. You can buy these in bulk from probably a number of places, but you can get a case of 1,000 of these delivered to your home for, I think, the total is like $38, or at least it was for me, and it's coming from the East Coast to the upper Midwest. And it'll last forever. They also have them in, I believe it's 3 7/8 by 5 and something. So it's almost the same size as the card panel. So after I weight that down, I decide, well, here, let's show you how flat that is. It was pretty warped. Now it is flat as can be, and it's light and stable. So now I'm going to take a little splash Hero Arts Reactive Ink, and I'm going to take a clear wink of Stella, I think I've already added water to this one. I usually put some washi tape on the barrel of the marker when I've added water to extend the life of it. I'm not positive though. I think I was guessing, or I was about to do it. So this one might still be pretty shiny. Anyway, I'm using it as a water brush, picking up some of the ink and adding it to that seashell we embossed with the sparkling sea embossing powder. And to clean that tip, I just wipe it on a piece of paper to get the rest of the ink off of it. And I still don't like it. It still doesn't look right. But we're going to go ahead and put this frame on. Again, we're going to glue it on. Just carefully adding glue. I think when I first started squirting it, it made a blob, but we'll fix that. If your glue, if you have this glue and it clogs the nozzle, it is water soluble. You just take it to the sink and clean it out with some hot water. I've had to do that a couple times with this bottle. Not a big deal. Not for me anyway. There I am, just dabbing a little of the excess glue off. Okay, time to center this on the panel. Yeah, I still have the tape on the back of my hand. I started to talk about that. I don't know if many of you know, but I'm an emergency room nurse. And I am peeling tape off of people all the time. Electrodes and pulling IVs out before we discharge people. And I hate it when the tape and the electrodes get stuck. Oh, here we go. I'm picking out stuck on sheets. That's where I was going with that. Hate it when they're stuck on the sheets or the floor because it's a pain in the butt to get those back off. So you know, we nurses, we're the chief cook and bottle washer. So not only do we take care of you in your room, but when you leave, we get to clean your room too. Okay, so I picked a shell, a conch shell from I believe it was the March 2019 Hero Arts kit. And it's like a silhouette one. So we're going to use, first I tried embossing that again with with the sparkling sea. And I'll leave it in here so you can see what it looks like and why I decided not to do that method. Anyway, back to the tape. When I pull electrodes off people, I stick them on the back of my hand. And when I'm pulling IVs out, I'm wearing gloves, but I take the sticky stuff and I put it on the back of my glove. The fact that I forgot I even had the tape on the back of my hand tells you how much I have tape on the back of my hand. It's a good thing I don't have hairy hands because I'd be waxing myself all the time. All right. This particular, because this embossing powder has glitter in it, it's a little tough to tell when it's all melted. It gets a little darker. I love this embossing powder. Absolutely love it, but it doesn't work for great detail. And this is a little image and it just kind of looks like a blob. A really pretty blob, but blob isn't really what I'm going for. So I'm going to try using the splash ink. And we'll see if we like that better, which I do. It has more definition. I kind of like the speckly look I got with it. I didn't clean the VersaMark off on there, and I think it pooled a little bit with the VersaMark. There's the coordinating dies. That was an awesome kit. It sold out, of course. Well, look how handy that tape came in. It's right there, ready for me to use to cut out this image. So I cut it out with the coordinating die, and I also got I cut another one out with coaster, and we'll glue those together. And oh my gosh, I had such a coughing fit right about here. I think I banged the camera even. It's ridiculous. There we go. Got that all glued together. Now we're gonna glue that to the card base or the card panel. Gosh, I hope I get that muted because you really don't want to hear that. Yep, there I go, banging the camera. Okay, just gonna get that right over the top of that embossed shell that you really can't see the detail of. It's a really pretty shell, however, yeah. Okay, now that'll dry really fast, and believe it or not, it sticks really well to the embossing. That glue will stick anything to anything, I swear. And then I decided I needed some sparkle on that frame die. So I'm using the same Wink of Stella that I used to watercolor, and see, there's no blue left on it. And it's getting a little tough to get the Wink of Stella to come out, so I'm squeezing it. Normally you prime it, well, usually you can get away with just priming it once in a great while. Well, this is a moment where I need to prime it. So you squeeze the barrel and it squishes more of the solution, the sparkly juice. You can see it coming through the barrel there. And then it really comes out. Holy cow. So I have to go back over all of the stuff I've already done because that is much more intensely sparkly. I was at this point wondering if I'd just ruined my entire card by being a little too extra. But keep going. Try not to get it on the background as I go all the way around. So my friend Jenny, the person that sent me this panel, has a YouTube channel also, Jenny Hall Design. And she is a very talented artist. I love her creations, and we met through a crafting convention and have been fast friends pretty much since the day we met in person there. I hadn't even met her online first. There's a lot of people I've met online first that have become my crafty friends, but I actually met her in person first. She's a really sweet lady. I love her to bits. And we decided we wanted to do a little bit of a collaboration. So we decided on Hero Hues Reactive Inks to be our first collaboration. And so she made a panel and sent it to me, and I'm creating a card with that panel. I hope we come up with some other awesome collaborations. Hey, leave us some suggestions in the comments. That would be really useful. And make sure you visit her YouTube channel and blog also. I'll have links to those in the description box also. I'm almost done clear Wink of Stellaing this all the way around. Almost. Just a couple little touch-ups there. Most of the products I'm using on this project are Hero Arts products, and you can get most of them except for the My Monthly Hero kit that is already sold out. I'm preventing my bottle of glue from getting clogged there. I just squeeze out any glue that's in the nozzle into a paper towel. Because I left it sit open quite a bit. And there you can see the shimmer there a little bit, but you can also tell that you can't really read that happiness part of the sentiment. And now I'm going to take a big risk. I've decided I'm going to reheat emboss this sentiment in silver. So I'm going to take my anti-static powder bag here again. I'm going to ink up my stamp with VersaMark and very carefully line that up over the sentiment and stamp it. I think I lucked out. This was a very risky move on my part. And it does want to slide around, but I didn't push really hard, so it just kind of rode on top of the embossing powder, which worked to my advantage. I'm using some Hero Arts silver embossing powder. This happened to come in another kit, but it's the same as the stuff you can buy in their containers. And yes, I do use coffee filters. I've used the same 2 coffee filters for probably 3 years now, at least. Long time. So you don't need to have gobs of them. All right. It didn't cover completely. I'm not going to fuss about that. It actually looks kind of cool in the long run. There we go. I'm just wiping off some of the extra. It did get in a few spots, but it's easily removed with a dry paintbrush off of the background. Very carefully getting it off the edge of that shell, although it might have been cool to have a little speckling of silver on there. Being careful to not overheat this. Now this is 2 layers of embossing on here. It looks pretty cool, I think. Yep. I haven't decided how I want to finish the inside, but there we go. I'm finally happy with it. Can you see the sparkle of that clear Winkostella? Well, I hope you really enjoyed this card. Please leave me a comment, thumbs up, subscribe to my channel. Go check out my blog. I'll have stills there. And you're going to want to go check out Jenny Hall's YouTube page and make sure you subscribe to her too. Bye-bye now.